Hello again, we're out of here. I have some more bad news. The battle between Hans versus Sirboomalot has also been corrupted, and it appears to also be Nomad. But I do have some good news, thanks to my friend, if I can do this correctly. And, yeah.
Sirboomalot said I watched that fight, could summarize it if you want me to.
Yes. Feel free, Sirboomalot, feel free.
Sirboomalot said went ahead and did the pictures with the grand powers of Microsoft Paint, so I might as well go ahead and do the explanation too. Sirboomalot said this was about how the map looked and where all the factions started. The area in the center of the map seemed to have less trees and more gold in it, and the top half of the map largely went unexplored. Sirboomalot said minor skirmishes happened, including a few towers being built close enough to another's base that they would rush those towers with villages to destroy them. In most cases this worked out fine, but in the case of the Persians vs the Chinese, the Persian army of a couple archers and a skirmisher were also present around the base of that tower. This caused the Chinese villagers, seemingly all they had, to constantly go back and forth within tower range, running from the military units only to immediately charge the tower again. Most of these villagers did not survive. Shortly afterwards, the Huns started amassing cavalry, and used them to great effect against the Mayan and Persian archers, killing those and several villagers from both factions. Sirboomalot said as the Hun army continued growing, it focused most of its efforts on the Persians, whittling away at their buildings and villagers until eventually there were very few such villagers to speak of. The Persians would never recover, and though the Mayans would use this time to build a castle and a few of their unique archers, building more archers against an ever-growing horde of knights was really just not the right call, I would say. Meanwhile, at the center of the map, the Koreans had also gotten their castle up, and had gone entirely unhampered to this point. Gathering wood from their east and supplied with plenty of gold, they had created an army of monks and war wagons which then descended upon the town of the Vietnamese. The Vietnamese also had a castle, and plenty of their unique archers, but neither was effective against the war wagons. The Vietnamese started building elephants as a counter unit, but I saw more elephants get converted than the Koreans actually had to kill, and soon the Vietnamese castle had fallen without a siege weapon in sight. The rest of their town soon followed. In the Malayans and Ethiopians side of the field, the Malayans were beginning to gain the upper hand against Ethiopian archers, spamming their unique unit to great effect and pushing the Ethiopians back to the safety of their castle. Sirboomalot said to win their battle, the Ethiopians would need help from an ally, but what they got instead were a flood of war wagons from Korea, straight from what once had been their allied town of the Vietnamese. Caught between two savage opponents, they quickly fell, while the Huns finished defeating the Mayans in the west. This would seem to then have become a 2v2 match, with Hun paladins fighting against Korean war wagons while the Malayan and Chinese armies moved into position, except that at this point there still was not any Chinese army to speak of. Their decisions at the beginning of the match had crippled them, and even now they were still just trying to recover. Sirboomalot said the Hun paladins and Korean war wagons fought each other to a standstill, with the paladins just barely crushing the wagons at the cost of most of their own units. Then the Malayans arrived with a complete and nearly untouched army, and it was curtains for the Huns. The Chinese soon followed, with but a whimper. Sirboomalot said there, a whole game summarized with the power of MS Paint. Carl, IT and Catkiller said the single Scout XD. Twinkle Toes said I refuse to not acknowledge the effort you put in, hence the pins. Sirboomalot said the power behind the throne, this was our Nomad game that got corrupted. Sirboomalot said, geez, I spent 50 minutes on that.
And that's all he wrote. See you next time on the next recording, I guess.